What's up YouTube, Al2 here, WBFF Pro Fitness Model, and you're now on the second episode of my series about if it fits your macros, flexible dieting, and how you can get started using it to achieve your goals. If you haven't watched part one, watch part one, and part one tells you what if it fits your macros is. This part is going to tell you what if it fits your macros isn't, and just quell some myths surrounding if it fits your macros. Myth number one, what if it fits your macros isn't. If it fits your macros is not a diet. It's not your typical diet because there aren't any food restrictions. It's not, for example, like clean eating where you can only eat certain foods, or it's not like paleo where you can only eat certain foods and certain foods are off limits. With if it fits your macros, the only two parameters you have are the scientifically proven ones of calories in versus calories out, and what those calories are made up of, your macronutrients, proteins, carbs and fats. So as long as you follow those two simple rules, you can pretty much utilize whatever diet you want within if it fits your macros. So that's a common mistake that gurus and people who don't understand always make. They differentiate between IIFYM and clean eating. It's either clean eating or it's if it fits your macros. This shows a very distinct lack of knowledge on the topic, where you can actually incorporate clean eating into if it fits your macros. And most people who are following a diet are following if it fits your macros anyway. If you have a macronutrient target or a calorie target, then you are incorporating if it fits your macros to some degree. So that's rule number one, or myth number one. If it fits your macros is not a diet. Myth number two, if it fits your macros is not eat junk food all day and get shredded and get into shape or lose weight or whatever you want to do. It is not that at all. This is another fallacy perpetuated by a lot of gurus and self-proclaimed experts. So if it fits your macros is actually something that, because there isn't any food restrictions, people assume the opposite. So they completely go the other extreme, where they think that anyone who follows this diet is going to be eating Pop-Tarts all day, is going to be eating cakes and donuts all day, and that is not what if it fits your macros is at all. Now, if you were to do this, you wouldn't have a very enjoyable lifestyle anyway, because you'd constantly be hungry and you would never reach your macronutrient targets anyway. Because if you've got an optimal macronutrient target for your goal of either weight loss or weight gain, your protein is going to be fairly high. It's going to be moderate to high. Now if you're eating Pop-Tarts and donuts all day, you're never ever in a million years going to achieve your macronutrient targets. So I'm not quite sure where they got this idea that if it fits your macros it's Pop-Tarts and donuts all day. It certainly isn't. You can certainly fill your caloric requirements with Pop-Tarts and donuts all day if you wanted to, but then you'd go against rule number two in if it fits your macros, which is making your calories out of optimal macronutrients. So that's myth number two. If it fits your macros is not junk food all day, because you just wouldn't be able to follow IIFYM if you ate junk food all day long. This ties me in nicely to number three. Myth number three, if it fits your macros is unhealthy. If it fits your macros is the opposite of unhealthy, because what you also have in if it fits your macros is you have a fiber target and a micronutrient target, vitamins and micronutrients. So what you want to do is, what I'm normally recommended and what I recommend also, is to have at least 4 pieces of fruit and vegetables per day, 4 portions. So that can be from 2 fruits and it can be from 2 vegetables. And I always recommend to use a variety as well, so that you can have all bases covered. And you can also have a broad range of micronutrition. Now, what you also want is a fibre target as well, which is going to help absorb nutrients and help give you optimal colon function. Now, another reason why If It Fits Your Macros is healthy is because most diseases, most things like coronary heart disease, diabetes, most of these things are linked to obesity. In most clinical studies, these diseases have been found to be linked to obesity. Now, I'm not saying that's responsible for it all the time, but with If It Fits Your Macros, if you're following If It Fits Your Macros, you're going to find it very hard to be obese because you're constantly going to be within a calorie range that prevents you from doing so. So If It Fits Your Macros, being far from unhealthy is actually the opposite. If It Fits Your Macros is very healthy. And on to myth number 4, which is one that I hear perpetuated probably the most often, and that is that you will look worse if you are following an If It Fits Your Macros type of diet rather than somebody who's following a clean eating kind of diet. This is one of the biggest myths you'll hear about If It Fits Your Macros, and the way to quell these myths is just simply to take it back to basics and go back to the scientific data. And also we can see anecdotal data now emerging as well to show that If It Fits Your Macros is not going to make you look any worse than somebody who is clean eating, or somebody who's clean eating is not going to look any better than somebody who's following an If It Fits Your Macros kind of diet. So what's been shown over and over and over again in the literature is that weight loss and gain, again, is to do with calories in versus calories out. And then the next most important step is to make sure that the weight gain and weight loss is coming from where you want it to come from. So we've got that covered as well, because our macronutrients are going to be optimal for our body and for our goal if we're following If It Fits Your Macros. So what actually is the truth? The truth is that if you're following clean eating without having a macronutrient target, then you are going to look worse than somebody who is following and tracking their macronutrients. So these are the 4 most perpetuated myths about If It Fits Your Macros, and hopefully now you realize that those myths have no solid ground and are usually perpetuated by people who don't understand and aren't open-minded enough to understand an If It Fits Your Macros or flexible dieting kind of lifestyle. I hope this video has helped you, and in the next episode what I'm now going to do is get into the meat and potatoes of everything and show you how to calculate your calories for your goal and your body, and also how to make sure those calories are made up of the optimal macronutrition. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.